Hello everybody. Today I've got 10 tips for you for modding Bethesda Games. It seemed like a good idea to make these since lots of people are interested in modding and lots of people make the same mistakes and they never get out of newbie territory. This will help you develop your modding skills and become better. Now, first tip, which isn't really a tip, it's just something I'm throwing in for a freebie. Don't use Google to search for things. Use one of the other search engines. Google personalizes your search engine just to show you the things you looked for. So if you're just a gamer starting to be a modder, it will show you gaming tips. You'll find it hard to find the help. So use Bing or one of the other search engines to find the modding tips, because they'll show you the raw search material where Google will personalize it to you. So if you're a modder, Google will know you're a modder, it will show you the links. If you're not a modder, it will know you're not a modder and it won't show you the links. So yeah, use the other search engines. That's a freebie thrown in at the beginning because you need to know that. Right, first tip, start small. If you want to learn the system, a modding system, and you try to do a big mod and learn everything all at the same time, you're making it harder for yourself, because you've got to pack the mod, you've got to upload the mod, you've got to release the mod, and the bigger it is, the more complicated that process is. So start small, right? A good start would be to learn how to make a character. Make yourself a character that you could place in the world. It doesn't have to do anything. It just has to stand there and look pretty, right? After that, there's all kinds of extra bonuses that go into characters, and that's a tip for later on. Right, but start by making a simple character you can place in the world that will do something. Okay, it could just walk around, you know, it just wander around a pub. Maybe it's one of the punters and it drinks at the bar. Right, or make a house mod. That's another good one. Both of these are used quite a lot in Bethesda Games, and both of these would be very useful information to know up front. Remember, there is a difference between internal cells and external cells. An internal cell can simply have a door put in front of anything and link to your game or your mod. So some of them are easier than others. Right, third one, big mods. Big mods can be broken down. You don't have to learn it all at once. Just like when you plan a mod and you break it down in the planning stage, what you need to do, the order you need to do it in, and how achievable each step is, big mods can be broken down exactly the same way, and you can learn each step individually in a unique mod before you attempt a big mod. These mods do not have to be release material mods. These can be private mods that you make just to learn the process. I do this all the time myself. The Battle of Nipton, which I shared with some of my more loyal mod users, was just a battle. It was a fun battle, we all enjoyed it, but it was a predecessor to the NCR mod, and if people liked it. It told me a lot about, you know, the direction of the NCR mod and whether it would be fun or not, and it was fun. People enjoyed it. It's a classic mod today, right? So these small mods give you guidance as well as teaching you how something works. To give you an example, in my Windhelm mod, which was the Stormcloak equivalent of Return to Helgen, I made a large battle outside Windhelm. And I realised that when you put 200 NPCs down, the game can't handle it. They stand around, looking around with their idle animations turned on, but everything else, the AI turned off. Because the AI just, to intensive purposes, they aren't there. And when one dies, one of them starts up and starts fighting. So I learned about that from these test mods. So test mods are good. So break those big mods down, focus on learning houses, characters, scripts, quests, voices, whatever you need to do, break it down, make a little mod to test it out first and get used to the system. And then when you're sure you know all of the bits you need to know, attempt your big mod. And the tip here is, when you're working in a team and you're the team leader, you need to know everything. You don't need to be good at everything, you just need to know everything. Because you don't want to be reliant on potential time wasters. Sometimes you'll have to get off your ass and do the bit yourself because people aren't handling their working on time. So it's important, if you're thinking of leading a big team, you learn every element of the mod. Right? Now, This is a good one. Characters. We mentioned characters are one of the things. Characters are a really good area to learn, and you should really spend the time to master this. If you're making a mod for a Bethesda game, characters are one of the major features of the game, and they bring everything to life. If you're making armour, a character could be a merchant. If you're making a house mod, a character might be a housemaid. If you're making a battle mod, characters could be 3,000 soldiers. You need to know the character system, right? How to make characters. There's several elements to this. You need to learn the packages in detail, how the packages work. You need to know the idle animations, what triggers them. Typically there's markers you put on the floor, and if you use a default wander package, they will wander to these markers and do whatever the idle animation marker says they should be doing. So if you've got one that says drink beer, stick it next to the bar. They'll walk up to the bar and have a pint. It brings your mods to life. Also scripts. Scripts can be attached. That's a more advanced topic. You typically do that to support quests. So you really need to look at that if you're dealing with quests. But be aware that scripts on characters are a thing, and they are used for that kind of situation. Voice acting, bits and voice work. Typically they use the standard male voice, commoner voice, stuff like that. But you want a unique character? Make your own voice pack. Do all the standard voices yourself. Learn how to do it. It's a very good thing to do. You might think your voice sounds silly at first, but you'll get used to it and you'll actually enjoy it once you get used to it. A lot of people do. They all sound weird at first, and then they just want to do more and more and more and more. And end up making videos like this. So yeah. Do the voices. In fact, I recommend you do the voices because it brings your character to life. The voice work does require a bit of extra work in the background because you've got to convert your voice files into various audio formats and do lip syncing and all that kind of stuff. And depending on the game, that may or may not work. Oblivion has problems. Fallout New Vegas has problems. Skyrim tends to work, but requires, I think it's XM something files. You need to convert things over to that. It's an Xbox format. So yeah, it's a bit extra work, but it's worth doing that for the characters, because you learn an awful lot from that, an awful lot. Right, factions. We're on 5 now. Factions. Now factions are very important because they make characters fight and or like each other. Factions can be given ranks. So at 1 you're just a member, at 10 you're the leader, and they all worship the ground you work on. It increases their loyalty to you and the way they treat you, and it gets better. So don't only use factions. It says use the ranks in the factions. Assign a rank to your characters so they respond the right way to the player, or the player responds the right way to them. Ranks can be used in scripts, all kinds of things like that, to change the dialogue as well. So this kind of level of detail gives you more options if you're a quest mod maker. If you're not a quest mod maker, it still makes the dialogue change, because you can add a condition that says if rank 7, use this dialogue, if rank 5, use this dialogue. So you can still do these things. But factions are very important for how things interact. As a general rule, you do not edit default game factions ever, right? Not ever. If you do that, you'll affect every single mod that uses them, and you'll get lots of complaints. What I would do instead was add the default game faction and then add your own faction to modify the results. That way, it says you can have your own faction, add extra features to the existing faction on that player without modifying the original thing. So you've got your standard faction there from the game and your faction here. This one provides all the common greetings and stuff for that faction, and all the usual dialogue and whatnot, and all the usual reactions. And if you need your factions to hate a particular person, add it in the next faction, add it in your own, right? That's a good tip, that it makes your mods far more compatible than they would have been otherwise. Right, city mods. Lots of city mod makers just clutter up cities, add such a ridiculous object count that the place you're going to be in the most runs at a really low frame rate. Or they block streets entirely. and change things around to the point where other people's mods end up placing NPCs inside their newly placed buildings. And I don't mean inside in a good way, I mean inside in the outside world. They're trapped inside the walls and can't get out. So do not clutter up the streets. Leave the streets, all the streets where they are. Like, let the NPCs still use them. Focus your attention on the areas that are already blocked for movement, areas that no modder is going to have things walk through. So this way you can beautify a city as much as you like and you will not affect any of the mods. Too many city mod makers make the mistake of making too big a changes to a city. You have to work within the limitations, and that limitation is keep the streets clear. Don't change the streets. Also, same applies for inside locations, so keep that in mind. Right, large projects. Remember, you do not have to have all the large projects details in the version 1. Right, set yourself an achievable goal for version 1, because version 1 is the one that has the most work to do. You have to do quite a lot of initial groundwork to build what you're going to build on them foundations, and it's all done in version 1. So focus on a basic mod for version 1, and then after version 1 add the detail and aim for adding more of the big detail in version 2 and version 3 and version 4. So each step of the way you do a version release and then you add the little bits of detail that are missing, another big version release and add the bits that are missing. This way you can break it down into achievable goals and you will get your mod released and you can use the feedback to make improvements on the next version. Getting feedback on each step is important because it makes for a better mod at the end of the day. And if you see people who see the mod and think, you know what, this would be good if, and you like the idea, you can make changes to your plans and incorporate the feedback and include them ideas in the next version and end up with a much better mod than you planned. So it's a very, very, very important step, and it's one I absolutely recommend you take. Right, modding teams. We've all seen it. Somebody goes on the forum, I want to make a big mod, I've got absolutely no experience, who wants to join me? And they spend the next 6 months making a video about the work they haven't done. Don't do that. Don't, right? If you've got a big project, use the steps in this, break the project down, learn each step yourself, plan the mod, then start on the mod and then work out which help you need and ask specifically for the people to help in certain areas. Remember, right, you do not have to be good at every area. If you're not good at every area, you know which areas you're going to need to help in. You can say, could someone help me with texturing? Could someone help me with mesh making? Could someone help me with the voice acting? You will know which areas need improvement. You can ask specifically on the forums. Your team will grow organically that way. It has the best chance of succeeding, and because you're already in the zone and are already taking the right steps as I've outlined in this, your mod stands a much greater chance of being finished in your lifetime. There's a reason why my Kvatch mod took less than 2 months to make, whereas the other Kvatch mods took 2.5 years. It's because they went the forum route, we want to make a big mod, who wants to join us? And they had a lot of time wasters. A lot of people came and went. In the end, only 2 people finished that mod. They stuck with it to the end. Everybody else abandoned them. So learn the lesson, right? Do the work yourself. Learn exactly all the steps needed so you can make the mod all on your own if you need to, right? And then once you've got a plan and you understand what's involved, then ask for help with the areas you're not good at. Very important tip that. Don't go, I've made a video of the mod we're going to make, get everybody excited and have people waiting around for something that's never going to get finished because they won't like you for it. Right, mod users don't read docs. It doesn't matter how much detail you put in a document, or the README, if they're not going to read it, then you wasted your time. And this is true. Mod users do not read docs. Right, so if you've got a mod that requires someone to read a doc just to play it, you're already doomed. You're going to end up with massive lists of forum posts, because that could be your intention. If you want people to pay attention to you, then having a complicated mod they must talk to you about is a good way of getting attention. But you'll probably find it's the wrong kind of attention. So make your mod simple so anybody can understand it, and then use the documents to explain features and reward those that do read the docs. So the people who do read the docs get more out of your mod because there's detail in the mods that they can already learn in there. For example, how to use certain features. Anybody that actually read the docs will learn how to use the features, and it becomes a talking point because it's something that everybody else will want to know, and these users will talk about it and they'll spread word of these features for your mod, and you won't have to do a thing. It helps promote your mod. If you're explaining how to install a mod and stuff like that because it's got an unusual install system, then people are going to start they're going to start hating your mod before they've even played it. Right, so it's not a good start, right? So make your mod as simple as possible. Remember, people don't read docs. Quests. If you're going to do a quest mod, work on 10 at a time. I found that's a nice achievable goal, right? And remember, the quests don't have to be big quests. They could be a simple quest to join 2 quests together, right? So 10 quests at a time. This gives you an achievable goal for version 1, and then the next version another 10, and the next version another 10, next version another 10. Eventually you'll have an easy 40 quest mod. It won't take much time whatsoever to do, and each step of the way you get feedback on the previous 10, and you can adapt the next 10 based on the feedback you've got, make any fixes before you continue. It's a really good way of bug fixing a mod as well. Because when you do it like that, you're only bug fixing 10 quests at a time. And when you have to bug fix or test a mod out, it says you have to play all the way through it. And that means you have to either have a special test character or abandon your current game just to do that. And believe me, it's better if you can do it in 10 quest blocks. It's quicker. It also gives you something that's easy to release, a definable release. You can pretty much estimate how long it would take you to do it. For me, a large quest mod made from scratch with 10 quests, with literally having to make everything from the beginning, would take 3 months most, right? Usually 2 months, sometimes less, depending on how much work was required on the groundwork. After that, I could release a new version every month. Within 4 months there'll be 40 quests, all heavily tested, all working. It works. It's a good system. Anyway, I could go on, lots more tips. If this proves popular, I'll do some more. There's tips for planning, for starters. The planning's, there's a lot involved in planning, especially big mods, and quite frankly, it's part of the fun. Because if you'll do the planning after every release, like version 1 you'll do the planning, version 2 you'll do the planning, version 3 you'll do the planning, so the planning is always there. The more you know about mod making, the easier the planning is. At first you're planning things you've got no idea about, and that plan has to change dramatically, and that slows everything down. Once you know everything and know how it works, the planning is a lot faster, a lot faster. So anyhow, hope you enjoyed the video. If you like these 10 tips format ones, let me know. They seem to be popular on YouTube, so we'll see how that works. And I'll see you in the next one.